right, this is Jimmy Cab's Tape to Broadcast, the 5150 interview series in Bulldozer magazine. Let me start off by giving you the definition of what overkill really is. You might find this interesting. Overkill, consistent, dedicated, determined, creatively unswerving. I appreciate that myself. Reliable, relevant, and steadfast for over 3 decades. 35 years to be exact.
I'll tell you something, man. That was some definition right there. Is that in Webster's?
No, that's old school overkill. You know what? In 1983, a friend of mine got a demo from Chris Loge. You probably don't remember him. He was a guitarist of Savage Grace.
Okay, I remember the band.
From the East Coast all the way over to the West Coast, and the Power and Black demo. And for over 35 years, I've admired what you've been doing. Bobby Blitz Ellsworth. Did I pronounce that last name correctly?
Hello, boys and girls. Bobby Blitz Ellsworth. That's correct.
Let me first start off by saying, kids, this is the example of staying true. How do you do it?
Vitamins, good drugs.
Really? I was like,
jeez. You know, it's funny. I mean, I think as time goes on, the idea is that, you believe what you've become, and try to accentuate it. I mean, you want to readjust, you want to reinvent, you want to do more. But I think that the idea is that not having an identity crisis never makes it go so far left or right that keeps kind of the dignity, the persona, et cetera, et cetera. So, we know who we are, and I think that that's as simple as it is. And if you know who you are, you can run through walls.
Do you think that has a lot to do with the fact that you come from a very blue-collar, very middle-class working social environment? Because, I mean, that has a lot to do with the background, man, of where you come from.
That's a great point. I mean, the guys in the tri-state area, in the New York area, I've always thought that one of the things that we know that is common to ourselves is we took what our parents gave us, and my grandfather shoveled coal and wanted my mother to do better. And my other grandfather worked in a factory and wanted my father to do better. Wow. And so the point is I think that that's one of the things of basic immigration, that the next generation should always do more. And when you took that principle from them and you applied it to whatever you wanted to do, you could always do more. My pop would say to me, hey, you want to be a bait salesman at the end of the pier, just be the best one you possibly could be, and you'll always have a happy day. And I thought to myself, man, I guess that makes sense. So sure, those principles, I think, are part of, let's say, our process with regard to being overkill.
What's interesting for me, and I've been wanting to ask you this for the longest time, but especially now that you're hitting that 35-year mark, amongst your fans, young and old, without question, but do you feel that Overkill has gotten finally the respect that you deserve? For every year that you've been existent, you've been, as I mentioned before, right on point, consistent. Writing, recording, touring, writing, recording, touring, through all the musical fads. But yet, I feel that the other bands, which I don't want to mention from your area, have gotten way too much acclaim. Why not Overkill? Do you feel you get the respect you deserve now, 2015?
I personally think that that's not necessary. I think that that's one of the reasons you can talk about 30, 35 years. If it's really, there's a selfish root of happiness to this as opposed to what the outside world thinks of you. Right. Provide the service, the rewards will come. It's really kind of the way we're going to look at things. We're not going to say, how come nobody's recognizing my genius?
Yeah,
You do that, you put yourself in kind of a situation where whatever you're going to do is going to be tainted or jaded with that cloud over the top of it. And what we like to do is enjoy ourselves, compete, go in to win. If we think of these as our principles as opposed to what accolades we can get, who gives a shit about the accolades? If you can actually put them out of your mind, you can succeed from day to day and be relevant from day to day. So it's really those original principles that I talked about, whether it's coal shoveling, factory work, being an attorney, being a guy in a band, playing the Regent Theater on October 6th. you do the best you can in the day, you're going to receive those rewards internally. So, I'm not this big spiritual person, but I do believe that not giving a shit what people think, there is huge freedom in that.
One of the things that I've always admired about you, Bob, is the fact that you've always had a really sincere, down-to-earth attitude, amongst other artists who have come and gone and the ones that remained. I think that's also a reason why you have sustained this incredible career, because you're real and it goes into the music, which is the most important thing. But how do you do that without being repetitive, mundane, predictable? Because every single album, and I'm going to be very honest with you, I think you're on like the 17th or 18th one.
17, yeah.
There's some there that I haven't been able to catch because it's just, I'm 45.
Yeah.
But I know that the ones that I'm familiar with, consistent and very diverse. How do you do that creatively?
Excitement is the X factor. I mean, if you can stay excited about what you're doing, I mean, that becomes what throws it over the top. You can talk it to death. And what we've tried to do over these last records, for instance, because there's chapters in this book, it's not just, one story where you turn the pages, there's eras. And I think that what's happening right now is we have unspoken communication, which is adding to that excitement, because now it adds surprise to it. Now, sure, I don't want to repeat myself on my end of the writing, and Dee Dee doesn't want to repeat himself. But again, you don't want to lose style. There's a fine line between repetition and style.
I want to stay with the product.
But the excitement is what throws it over the top. You say, wow, this is kind of new. And what we've been doing, for instance, on the last few records is we've been picking kind of tag words, like origin words, iron for Ironbound, armory for White Devil Armory, electric. So it becomes a game to us, like a competitive game, that all of us are working off of this word, and shit's coming in, and I go, I know what Linsk is thinking right here. He's, because the tag word's electric, or I know what Dee Dee Verney's doing right now, because we're working on armory, and I'm messing with the words and they're messing with the riffs. It becomes kind of mysterious on the back end. We'll keep the identity, but there adds the excitement. There throws it over the top with regard to eliminating the mundane.
Wow,
That's really interesting. For me, this is something that I've wanted to always ask you. Being that when you are creating, the song or the material never ends. But when you go back and you revisit your own discography, are there some elements in there that you wish maybe you would have added a little more or gone back? And is that relevant to new material that you're writing?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I see the bumps in the road because, you don't know where you are unless you know where you've been.
Right.
But I've never been one to say, oh, that was a failure or a mistake, because I'm a firm believer that the way you progress is to recognize your mistakes, admit them, and not repeat them.
Right.
That's really the idea. I always get a kick out of younger bands who get accepted on a really high level between 1, 2, or 3 records, and immediately put themselves in I must be a smarter person category then. You're not. You're the same douchebag who wrote the first record. You are.
Yeah.
You just have more fucking money and people like to be around you, but it doesn't necessarily make you a stellar individual,
Right.
someone that should be listened to. That person, whoever he may be or she, is mistakeless in their mind.
Right.
Everything I do is gold. Why don't they understand my genius? Well, they finally have, right? Well, the point is that I think on our end, what's kept us quite humble is one of your earlier questions, with regard to accolades. Now, if I remove that from the equation, it gives me a hell of a lot more freedom to not be the smartest guy on the face of the earth, which also means I'm still fucking learning at this old age.
Yeah.
And if you're still learning, that means you're still alive and you're still enjoying what you're doing.
I'm a contributor,
Yeah.
right? I'm not the contributor, I'm a contributor. And I remember, great lessons I had when I rode with a group of individuals over on the East Coast and learned that I was a small part of a bigger plan, that I was only a small part of the puzzle, and I could only make my world better. I couldn't make everybody's world better. And when I thought in such terms, I think it gave me the opportunity it kind of frees me up because you're not thinking genius anymore. You're not thinking, how fucking smart am I? I'm like, for God's sake, I sold fucking 600,000 records. I'm a fucking genius. No, you're a fucking lucky bastard is what you are.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
you're not curing cancer.
but exactly. So the point is that with regard to accolades, sure, 35 years, sure, doing what we want to do, playing by our own rules, but free, man, free.
Yeah.
And that's the... that I think is the priceless end of success is freedom in your own head.